Hi everyone, welcome back to the GenFarmer Automation No-Code course. In the previous lessons, and the nodes that handle core automation actions.
In this next lesson, we'll explore more advanced nodes. These nodes help us manage variable data, store it in the system, and connect to the network. And they also let us work with nodes that communicate with today's leading AI models, Gemini, OpenAI, Grok, and more. Alright, let's dive into the first group in this lesson. Variable management and storage nodes. This group lets our automation read, write, store, and process data, like giving the workflow its own memory and storage blocks. First up is the crypto node. It works a lot like copy and paste. It has an option called copy. When you enter data here, it automatically copies it to your device's clipboard, on your computer or phone. Next is paste. It takes whatever you copied and puts it into a variable. Now I'll test the copy feature. I'll put test session 4 into my memory variable. Then, to verify it's saved correctly, I'll add another crypto node and pull the stored data back out and put it into a variable. Let's create a variable called test. So the workflow will copy test session 4 to my phone's clipboard and then use another crypto node to retrieve it so we can check whether it works. Now I'll run it. You can see it shows a line saying it's been copied to memory. Once it finishes, it writes test session 4 into the test variable. Now I'm pulling that data into this variable here. For example, I'll change it. I'll set it to 456,789. Then I run it again, it will retrieve that value. So I can verify it's correct. So that's the copy option and how to retrieve the data. What about paste? Paste sends your value into whatever path you want. For example, I'll paste it right here. I'll paste it into this text field. I'll create a new text field and paste it into this line. To paste, I'll open Inspector. I select the device I'm coding on. Then I copy its path. Now I'll paste. It will paste into this path with the value test session 456789. Click paste and it runs automatically. It's pasted into this section. Next is the set variable node. This node is used to assign values to variables. For example, you have a variable called test and you want to set its value to 15. Or you can use it to increment a value or subtract, multiply, or divide. It depends on what you need in your workflow. For example, you can use it to count errors and to count how many runs succeeded. Here we'll use the increment operator. Each time the flow passes this node once, the test variable automatically increases by 1. So depending on what you need, you'll apply it to different flows or branches. Next is variable. This is used to hold all the blocks in your workflow. You can add a new block with the plus icon here. Add a new run block. You can also delete blocks you don't need anymore. For example, these blocks are from the previous lesson, so we can remove them. And down here are the blocks linked to Account Manager. For example, it can pull values from your accounts. Next is a node that helps us send data to fields and tailor account. For example, here I'll choose a field called Status to update the account status in Tailor Account, so it's easier to manage and see where the workflow is and what it's doing. For my account, in this view I'll select the first account. Its current status is listening. Now I want to update it. Set the status to Hello Session 4 Chiha. So I'll use this node, insert the data hello 4. Then click update and run it. It will automatically push that value into my Tailor account and update the status field. Okay, I can go back to this view to run it, and the value of the status field has now changed. You can apply this to account check workflows. For example, with a Spotify account, you can check whether it's playing or what it's playing and update the status using this node. Next is a node that lets us interact with Google Sheets or Excel on our computer. First, to use this node, you need to enter the file path to the file you want to work with. For example, I've prepared an Excel file on my computer, so I'll link to it first. This is our Session 4 file. Inside the Session 4 file, I set up the values like this. First, I have a column for the column name, and I label it by column, A through E, and the values run from A2 to A10. And similarly for column E. For the asset name, I set the syskin. Its name is syskin. Now I'll go back to my node. First, I select the file path. Second, this part is the range we scan. For example, if you want to scan the whole file, you can set it from A1 to E10. If you want to leave extra space and scan a larger range, you can set it from E to Z. Here I'll set it from E1 to Z to make sure it won't miss later values. So if you update and add more columns or rows later, you won't lose data. And system refers to this T in syscall section. Here I'm selecting symbol, and next is map. Meaning, which cell do you want to read from? First, we'll hit preview to make sure this node is working. It will read the data in a JSON format. This first block here, this EBCD block, takes the first row and uses it as the key. So the first row is EBCD, and it locks that in as a fixed header. Everything after that will be the values. Now let's apply its rule. To read the value of a specific cell, remember, the indexing starts from 0, and this first block is fixed, so we won't touch it. Now, for example, if I want to read the value from cell E4, here's how we do it. We count 0, 1, 2. To get the value at E4, we take the item at index 2. Inside the E block, my E block is named E, so I copy the block name and set the index to 2. I enter 2 here, and for the block name, I'll put E. This example is just a test. When you run it, it returns the value exactly at cell E4. Similarly, if you want the value of cell E7, you count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that corresponds to index 5 in the E block. You enter that here and update it. Item number 5 of the E block. Then when you run it, it will pull out the value from cell E7. So that's how we use this spreadsheet node to pull values from an Excel file into our workflow. Now let's move on to another feature, writing data. I'll copy another block over here. For writing data, we select the right option. The file path stays the same. The sheet name stays the same. And the run name stays the same as well. But this range is different. Before it was the source range we scanned. Now it's the cell we want to write into. For example, let's write into cell E5. Writing is simpler than reading. You just specify the exact cell you want. If I want to write to E5, I set it directly to E5. If you want to write to E8, you set it to E8. And fill in whatever value you want there. So here I'll set the target to E5. And I'll enter the value Y here. The value is Y. Now I'll run it and we'll test again. I'll go back to the read node to scan the value first. This is my E5 cell. Right now it shows the value E5. Now I'll write a new value into it. After writing, I'll come back and test again. Then E5 will show the value we entered in the spreadsheet node. Okay, that's the spreadsheet node's feature. Next is the insert data node. This node helps us print the data in the task section. So when you run it as a task, so you can manage and use this node pretty easily. First, you need to create a table. This table is where you define the column names. Just type the column name here. The first column is status. This is where you track the state. Then you enter the values for each task. If you want to add another column, just add a comma and type the new column name. Then click Save. After that, go back to the Insert Data node. Now you'll be able to select the column names from the table you just created. In this example, there are 2 fields, status and check. And here you can fill in the values. Whatever you type in after the workflow runs, it will output that data. When you run this node, it outputs the table values. You'll see the output in the task section, right here. It shows up under resume. In the next lesson, when we start building a simple flow, I'll demo how this insert data node works. Next is a node that can read data from a file or from a variable. Most of the time, I use this node to read a TXT file on my computer. So first, I'll create a TXT file. I'll go here to create it. Then I'll enter some sample values. For example, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. These will match the values we want to test later. And I'll save it as a file named cc4. Alright. To read it, first paste the file path in here. Once you have the path, you'll see different reading modes. For example, read line by line, or read by a delimiter. Right now I'm reading line by line, so the delimiter can stay as the default. If you use a special separator, like a comma or a dot, you enter it here. And if you want random reading, you can keep the line separator as default. Now I'll test it. I'll output it into my test variable. Each time it reads, it will pick one line. It randomizes across these lines, because we're using random mode. If you don't want it to repeat, enable the delete option. After it reads a line, it automatically removes that line from the data. To use delete mode, you'll need to recreate or reset the TXT file first. Now I'll read again. See, the first read returns line 1. If I open the file, you'll see line 1 has been removed. And if you read 4 times, it will read 4 times, 1 line per run. So that's how reading from a file works. If you want to read from a variable, it's the same. Pass in a variable and add the values for it to read. Next is a node that helps you write data into a file. I'll write it straight into my session 4 file. Now we move on to the data we want to write. For example, maybe I want to write hello, like lesson 4, and I want to save it as a TXT file. It also supports other formats too. For example, JSON or CSV. Here you'll see 2 write modes. One mode overwrites the file, and the other mode appends to it. When you choose append, you get two options: append with a new line, or append using a custom separator character. In this example, I'll choose overwrite, so it clears all existing data in that file, and replaces it with the new content. After I run it, if I reopen the file, you'll see the old data is gone, and only this new data remains. If you want to write it in a new line format instead, just switch to that mode and write. When you open the file again, it will automatically add a new line for you. Alright, so that's the node for writing data into a TXT file or other supported file formats. Next is a node that lets us save images. This save can work using a link or an image value itself. Let me give you a quick example. In your workflow, you might need to save an image from a website. Here, this is the image URL. So you paste in the link you want to save from. After you select the link, next you set a file name. For example, if I want to save this image, I can name it GenFarmer. And here is the destination path, where the file will be saved. I'll save it into this folder. Then I run it, and it will automatically download the image for me. Earlier I forgot to enter the image URL, so it couldn't show anything. So I'll paste the image URL in, then run it again, and it will download the image properly. So that's what the Save Image node does. And yes, you can also save using an image value directly. Next is a more advanced node. This node can fetch device properties from the phone you're running on. For example, the device name, the model, the manufacturer, and the Android version. If you're not sure what property to use, tap Test. It will list all available device information here. Normally, I use this node to check the device module. So I use a command like rospinix.module, paste it in, then hit Test, and it returns my device name right away. In some cases, you might want to store that result in a variable for later steps in your flow. Next is another node that lets us get an attribute value of a specific element. For example, I'll go back into Inspector, open Inspector again, and select an element to read from. For example, in the Play Store app, there are many different elements, so depending on what you need, you can pick a specific element and read its attribute value. Here, I'm going to read the GripSun attribute value from this Play Store app. To get the GripSun attribute value, I'll go back to my getExtraView node. So basically, to pull the GripSun attribute, we use the getExtraView node to read it and return it as a usable value. Next is the data extraction node. This node helps you pull a value from a text string. I usually use it in workflows where we need to extract a code to input. For example, someone sends you a value by email, and you need to grab that code and enter it in your workflow. So you use this node to extract that verification code into the workflow. For example, here's a simple code line like this, and we need to pull this code out so we can feed it into the workflow. For the expression, you can click the guide button here, where you can go to Tractivity and ask. It's pretty simple. You just paste your text in, then say, I want to extract the code from this format. Using the data extraction method, it will give you an expression. You just copy it and paste it in here, and this node will return the result, your extracted code. Once you have that code, store it in a variable and continue building the workflow. And finally, there's a node that helps us check account status. It supports checking two account types, Facebook and TikTok. To check, you simply enter the UID here. For TikTok, you enter the UID and run it. It will check and return the account status. For example, active or inactive. Next, we'll look at the node group for network connection and system control. The first node is network check. It helps you check whether your phone currently has an internet connection. When you run it, it returns a value, true or false. Next is the SIMD node. This node lets you control the system directly inside your workflow, similar to running commands on your computer. Normally you'd run those commands outside, but this node lets you manage and run PC control commands right inside the workflow. For example, I can run it to check whether my server is connected or not. I'll use a simple Google ping command, hit test, and it returns a result like this. Next is the ERP node. It's similar to SIMD, but its scope is narrower, and it focuses mainly on Android, so it can't control the computer running the workflow the way SIMD can. This node lets you send commands directly to Android, straight to your phone. For example, you can tap the screen using coordinates, like the position of a specific button in the Play Store. So I'll go to the Play Store button to get its coordinates. The coordinates are 675 by 1527, right? Then I come back here in the input path and set the click event with the coordinates 675 by 1527. When I run this command, it will automatically tap the screen exactly at the coordinates I entered. There's also a command that lets you open a link directly. I'll leave that command in the lesson notes, so you can copy and test it. Now I'll run it and open this link using a browser. On my phone, Chrome or Samsung Internet. When I run it, it will prompt me to choose which browser to use. I'll pick Chrome, and it will open Google inside Chrome. Next is Node Generator. This only works if you use the generator inside the Chrome ecosystem. Next is Backup and Restore. Backup compresses all data inside an app, so you can run multiple accounts on the same device. To use it, you choose one of two options, Backup or Restore. I'll choose Backup first, then enter a backup name, and choose the folder where you want to save the backup file. When you run it, it will automatically create a backup file containing all the app data. For example, after you log into Facebook, you can create a backup, so later you don't need to log in again. If you want to restore, it's the same. Select the previous backup file, enter the backup name, and it will restore the data for you. Finally, there's the device lock node. It has two functions, lock and unlock. For example, if my phone is currently unlocked, this can lock it automatically. And when you want to unlock it again, you can either manually touch the screen or use this node to unlock it automatically. Next is the final node group. This group lets the workflow call APIs and bring AI into the workflow to run and process tasks like generating text. First is the HTTP node. This node lets you send requests to an API or a website, get data, post data, and send headers, tokens, cookies, parameters, and more. It helps your automation connect and communicate with servers or APIs, similar to Postman. But each request runs automatically inside your workflow. To use it, first enter the URL you want to send the request to. For example, I'll enter a sample URL here. And in this section, you add the API endpoint. Then hit test, and it will return a token-like result and the API response value, so you can capture it. You can store it in a variable like token, save it into your test or check variable, then run your next HTTP step using that value. Next is the node for talking to ChatGPT. To use it, first enter your API key. You can use it for two things, text generation or image generation. Here you choose the model like 3.5 or 4. Then you enter a prompt to talk to the AI, and the result is saved into an output variable. If you want to generate an image, you enter the prompt here and choose the image size. And it works similarly for OpenAI as well. DeepSeek is similar too. You can choose task code by model, or select custom if you want a specific model. Then you enter the prompt and run it to get the output. Next is another node for working with APIs. If earlier you used HTTP for an API call, here you can enter that API into this node, run it, and it returns results, similar to what HTTP returned. Alright, that's the full content of session 4 today.
In the next lesson, we'll recap and apply everything from basic to advanced nodes to build a workflow to automate interactions on Instagram. See you in the next lesson.